That member's resumed her seat. In fact, one of her colleagues, she's obviously unaware, but one of her colleagues has actually got a set of amendments that do include the suggested amendment that she made around guidance and counselling. I just wanted to go through that colleague Grant Robertson's amendments and say that the government will be voting against them for a variety of reasons. If you look at his amendment to Part 1, inserting new Clause 5A, actually that's quite unnecessary because it's already provided for by Section 41 in the State Sector Act 1998, so that's a piece of bureaucracy we don't need. As is amending Part 1 by inserting new Clause 5B. The correspondence school enrolment criteria already published in the Gazette. Again, it's a bit of bureaucracy that's not needed, and we've tried very hard in education to get rid of a whole lot of bureaucratic requirements that duplicate things that are done elsewhere. Interestingly, amending Part 1 by inserting new Clause 28 and new Clause 16A, 20A and new Clause 16A were picked up out of directly out of the Labor government's bill that the speakers have fondly referred to right through the debate in this. Well, this is a new piece of legislation introduced by a new government, and despite the talk around the guidance and counselling, career counselling, there is no foundation for the Labor scaremongering that in fact National's going to do away with that. That's just a figment of their imagination. We don't see that if you put something into legislation that necessarily makes it happen or makes it better. And it was interesting to hear Mr Mallard say of the functions for a board of trustees, why wouldn't anyone support it? Well, in actual fact, there has been no consultation on putting into legislation these descriptions of the functions of a board, either with the New Zealand School Trustees Association or with the many parents that are putting their names forward. That is true. There was no consultation with the School Trustees Association. The first time they saw it was when it appeared in legislation under the previous government. Certainly there has been no consultation through this process. There has been no opportunity for any of the parents who might have put their names forward for the Board of Trustee elections, which are happening in a couple of weeks, to have any opportunity to discuss the sort of tight restrictions that this piece of legislation puts on them. And in fact, I'd say to the House, what is the problem? What actually is the problem? There is no evidence that the majority of boards of trustees aren't focused on the sort of things that we read here in this amendment. In fact, in the year to March, there were 98 interventions in schools out of over 2,500. So, in fact, our schools are working very well. So, on behalf of the government, amending Part 1 by inserting new Clause 60A, that's just changing terms, the names of terms that are actually still valid. So, really, a good try from Grant Robertson, but we don't see any need to support any of those amendments.
Cool.